Assalamualaikum and hi. In this video, we're going to kick off a new topic, which is Java file manipulation. Specifically, we're going to look into the text file manipulations. And for this video, we'll start by looking into the file class and what are the methods available within this file class. We're going to explore 4 specific methods, which are the createNewFile method, the getName method, the delete method, and also the exist method. Well, if you look into the name of this method, I suppose you should be able to guess what are the functions of this method. For example, if you call the createNewFile method, you should be able to create a new file. So let's get started with the first method, which is the createNewFile method. But of course, before we work on calling this method, we will first need to import the file class. So as you can see here, I have created a project, text file manipulations, and within that text file manipulations, I have actually 4 different files, which I'm going to demo to you the different methods available under this file class. So we're going to start with the createNewFile.java. Now, within this file here, I start by importing the file class. This is something that you should be familiar with by now, because we have actually learned about the import Java statement previously. For example, previously, when you want to use a scanner class, you do import java.util, which is the utility package.scanner. Okay. So we use java.util.scanner because the scanner class is within the utility package. But of course, this is not what we're going to do today. We are going to use the file class. So I do import java.io.file. So of course, file here is the file class, whereas for the IO, this is actually the input-output package, so IO package. We also import another class, which is the IO exceptions class for exception handling. We're going to discuss this later on in other videos, because as I say in this video, we will only focus on the file class and the methods available within file class. So now let's get started by looking into how can I actually use the createNewFile method. So if you have been using NetBeans all this while, you should be able to know what you need to do as a start. So no matter what are the Java codes that you're going to write, you always need to start by writing the public class. In this case, I have public class createNewFile. The name of the class, remember, need to be exactly the same as the name of my .java. So here you can see the name of my .java is createNewFile. That's why I have public class createNewFile. Now, within the createNewFile class, I will need to have the main method. This is what we call as the main method here. Public static void main strings argument. Now, all the codes that you are going to write will be within this main method. Okay, so for file class, what we're going to do is we are going to first create a file object. And you can see here, I do file here. This is actually the name of my object equal to new file. And this will be the argument that I pass into that specific parameter. Again, this is something that is quite familiar to you because previously we have learned how to create a scanner object. So just have a quick recap here. How do we create a scanner object? We do scanner. The name of my scanner object, for example, my object, is equal to new scanner. And within that, I put system.in, okay? Of course, you will see a red line here because I didn't import the scanner class. This is just for the sake of example. But I just want to show you that the conventions or the syntax of creating an object is exactly the same. So when you want to create a scanner object, you use the scanner class here. The name of your object equal to the new. You have the new keyword here. and this will be the name of your class as well, right? So when I want to create a file object, then I do file, the name of my file object. Of course, you can change it to, for example, my file, whatsoever that you like, and then equal to, again, I use the new keyword and file, but within this, the argument that I will need to provide will be the name of the file that will be linked to that file object. So in this case, I would just write input.txt, okay? Because later on you will see that this is actually the file or the text files that I would like to create. Moving on, we're going to have an if-else statement here. Before we look into the if-else statement now, let's look into the statements here. File.createNewFile, okay? So file here refer to the object which I have created, and this is the method that is belong to that file. Again, just for revisions, previously when we create a scanner object, then we use a method which is specific to that object. For example, I do my object dot next double, okay, when I want to read a user input which is in the form of double data type, right? Same convention here. I create the file object and I call a specific method which belong to that file object. Now for this specific method, create new file, it will return a Boolean value, which means it will return either true or false. Okay? So it will return true if a file is successfully created, and it will return false if otherwise. That's why here we do a if-else statement here, where we say if file.createNewFile, okay, means if a file is successfully created, then I will simply print system.out.println file created plus file.getName. This is another method that we're going to discuss later on. But let's continue with the conditional statement here. Next, we say else. Else means when it returns false. I do system.out.println file already exists. I run create new file. So you can see here file created input.txt. So you can look for the folder here, NetBeans project. Click on that. And in my case, I have a text file manipulations project. So this is the folder of my project. I double click on that and you will see that this is the file that has been created. So if we can open that, you will see that it's basically just an empty file. Okay. Now, if we go back to our codes here, you can see here that system.out.println file created, and I call another method file.getName. Okay, that's why you will see input.txt here. As the name of the methods implies, getNames means we're going to use this method to retrieve the name of the text file that we are dealing with. So here we get input.txt. Now let's move on to another method, which is the file exists method. Again, I've created a file exists.java here. Now, if I open this, you will see, as usual, I import the java.io.file, which is the file class. And within my main method, I have something like this. The first line is always I create a file object. And next, I also have an if-else statement here. Similar to the createNewFile method, we know that for exist method, it will also return a Boolean value, which is either true or false. So if the file exists means the file is there, then it will return true. If the file is not there in that specific directory, then it will return false. That's why we have, again, the if-else statement. Remember just now in our text file manipulations project folder, we already create the input.txt. So whenever we run this code here, it should actually return true and print file exist. So let's run this by right-click on file exist.java, run the file. You will see here file exists. Now let's say I try to change this input.txt to, let's say, output.txt. Okay, so we know that there's no such file within that directory. So if I run file exist.java again, I will see file does not exist. Finally, we're going to explore the last method, which is the delete file method. Note that here, it's not a must for you to create a .java file which has the same name as your method. So you can create a Java file with a different names, but use various different types of methods within that file. That's totally fine. So in my case, because I just want to show you that, okay, that specific file is actually to demonstrate a specific method. That's why I use, for example, here, delete file.java. Okay. So here, as usual, I start with import java.io.file to import the file class. So within the main method, I create the file object here. So here I will write, I create a file object. And you need to remember that every time you want to use a specific file method, you will need to first create the file object, and the conventions or the syntax is actually the same no matter which methods that you want to use. And here, similarly, I do if file.delete. And if you look into this, you're supposed to know that this is also a method that return a Boolean value. So if a file is successfully deleted, it will return true. And if not, it will return false. So that's why here I do if file.delete, means if a file is successfully deleted, then I print system.out.println file deleted successfully. And of course, I print the file name. Else, I will say failed to delete the file. So here, of course, if I run this with input.txt, I will see file deleted successfully. And now if you go back to the folder here, you no longer see the input.txt. Of course, if let's say I change this to output.txt, which is the file that does not exist, then it's supposed to print fail to delete the file. So I run this again, and you'll see here fail to delete the file. Okay. So here we have looked into the 4 commonly used methods within the file class. But before I end this video, I'm going to show you another thing which is related to the file directory. So we can go to the createNewFile.java. I've actually commented out one line here. What you have seen previously, based on the 4 example here, we create a text file into a default directory, which in this case, we know that is the project folder. Okay, remember here, when we run the createNewFile.java, and input.txt is created within my project folder. So what if I want to create a file within a specific directory? So this is something that you can do. In fact, I have written this, so I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to show you this. Okay. You still create a file object, right? File, this is the name of my object, equal to new file. But within here, when you pass the argument here, you specify the path of the file that you want to create. Okay. So basically here, I'm telling the code that, okay, I want to create a file within this specific path and folder. So now if I run this, createNewFile.java, okay, you say a file created input.txt. Well, if you go back to your NetBeans project, you won't see anything here because the file is not created within my project folder. But again, here it says user, and on my file input.txt, so it should be within my file here. Now let's go and check is within anonymous here. my file, right? Okay, so within this folder, you will see here input, which is a text file that I've created. So you can always specify the path and also the folder in which you want to create the text file. So I hope through this video, you have a better understanding of file class and for commonly used methods within the file class. Thank you very much.